Hey there, it's Thundersmeg here. Today I will be explaining a 2007 movie called Resident Evil Extinction. Let's get started. In the opening of our tale, Alice awakens within the confines of an unfamiliar bathroom, situated within the enigmatic walls of an imposing mansion. Disoriented and devoid of knowledge about her whereabouts, she hastens to attire herself. Exiting into the dimly lit hallway, her attention is inexorably drawn to an enigmatic door that beckons curiosity. Beyond that door lies a chamber of extraordinary peril, its very existence defying comprehension. Tentatively, her hand grazes the wall, prompting a disconcerting montage of haunting memories from her past to flash before her eyes. Suddenly, the door seals shut, unleashing a laser beam that hurtles towards Alice with relentless velocity. Reacting with split-second agility, Alice evades the oncoming laser by vaulting to the ceiling. Yet, unbeknownst to her, this is merely the harrowing commencement of her ordeal. A lattice of laser beams now looms menacingly, but Alice once again eludes harm by finding refuge within a ventilation shaft. Trepidation courses through her as she navigates the labyrinthine shaft, eventually emerging into a corridor that evokes a startling revelation. She is within the confines of a hospital. Spotting a medical gurney, she commandeers it as a makeshift shield, desperately striving to outpace lurking dangers. Within moments, a descending glass screen cleaves the gurney in twain, narrowly missing her. Shaken and petrified, Alice persists cautiously along her path. Yet her journey is abruptly marred when a mine emerges from the floor, unleashing a hail of shrapnel that finds its target in Alice's abdomen. Her injury appears dire as she gazes hopelessly upon bloodied hands before succumbing to darkness. Men clad in protective attire converge upon Alice's prone form. Dr. Isaacs, among them, instructs the collection of samples from the crimson fluid now staining the scene. Their orders are clear: dispose of the girl. Our scene transitions to a view of an ordinary house, isolated within a desolate landscape. Suddenly, individuals clad in protective attire emerge from an underground research facility, carrying Alice in their grasp. Her lifeless form is cast into a pit containing numerous other young girls akin to her, a somber repository of the failed clone experiments. Yet the enigma lingers. What befell the original Alice? Does she endure? The vicinity encircling the clandestine laboratory entrance is barricaded by stout iron bars, encased in an expanse devoid of vitality. A desolate desert stretches as far as the eye can see. Beyond this perimeter, a ravenous horde of reanimated creatures hurtles towards the fence. This subterranean facility is the property of the Umbrella Corporation, whose personnel believed they possessed dominion over a dreadful contagion, one that metamorphoses individuals into devoid of sentience monstrosities. Alas, the experiment spiraled into chaos. The malevolent T-virus initially seized control within the confines of Raccoon City, yet both scientists and the military proved impotent in its containment. In a matter of weeks, it engulfed the entirety of the United States and a few months later, the entire world. The highly virulent virus wrought devastation not only upon humanity, but also ushered in the gradual demise of all life on Earth. Rivers and lakes withered away, woodlands and plains transformed into barren wastelands. Surviving groups adapted to a nomadic existence as lingering in one locale became perilous. Much like her fellow survivors, the genuine Alice roams the expanse of America, scouring for sustenance and precious fuel as she navigates the unforgiving landscape. She enters an abandoned structure with caution, aware of the lurking danger. In one of the rooms, Alice encounters a woman with a baby. Alice approaches them with her gun raised, and the woman pleads for help for her baby. Alice takes the baby in her arms, but upon closer inspection, she realizes that it is only a doll. Suddenly, she finds herself at gunpoint as a family of marauders attacks her. One of the men tries to molest Alice, but she takes him out with a strong blow to his leg. The rest of the family stuns her, and Alice faints. Alice wakes up in a room filled with cages containing infected dogs that are wildly aggressive and ready to tear her apart at any moment. The family decides to release the zombie dogs to amuse themselves by tearing Alice apart. However, these people have no idea about the outcome of their ridiculous and cruel plan. Alice uses her incredible abilities to destroy both the dogs and all the marauders. Her lightning-fast reactions and dexterity help her stay unscathed in this fight. She picks up her remaining weapons and sets off again. A group of survivors are traveling across the vast desert in cars and buses. This group consists of several dozen people, including Claire, Carlos, LJ, Betty, and Otto. They communicate with each other via radio from different cars and deal with all pressing issues, while more and more zombies keep popping up on the highway. The Science Department of Umbrella Corporation reports to Chairman Wesker on the level of biological danger in their region. Isaacs claims these creatures don't require sustenance to survive. Instead, they yearn for human flesh, and this craving could persist for decades. Wesker instructs Isaacs to provide an update on the Alice project. The doctor asserts that the antibodies in Alice's crimson fluid can aid in creating a serum capable of combating the T-virus's effects on the human body. The doctor predicts that the serum could partially restore cognitive function in zombies and quell their desire for flesh. Isaacs intends to domesticate these beings like animals and exploit them as a source of free labor. The corporation's leadership is skeptical of the doctor's proposals, given his history of inconclusive experiments. Isaacs defends himself by insisting that he requires the original Alice as source material, as the scientific department currently works exclusively with her clones, making the project's outcomes uncertain. Dr. Isaacs is instructed to persist in his research and achieve the necessary outcomes because Alice is the central focus of the entire corporation's project. After the meeting concludes, the chairmen vanish, revealing themselves to be mere holograms. Alice continues her journey, using a crossbow to dispatch a zombie in her approach to a gas station that has been devoid of fuel for quite some time. Cautiously, she enters the abandoned store where she discovers a door. She chooses to open it and encounters a decomposing corpse surrounded by a swarm of flies. Despite the repulsive odor, Alice clears her throat and wishes to depart swiftly, but then notices an open diary on the floor, which she takes with her outside. Alice then turns her attention to the zombie she dispatched, observing a massive raven feasting on its infected flesh. Claire Redfield's party presses forward on their journey. The survivors opt to halt their progress at an unoccupied roadside inn. Mikey, a member of their group, attempts to establish contact with fellow survivors, but receives no response. Carlos and LJ cautiously venture into the motel, meticulously surveying each room while keeping their weapons at the ready. LJ opens a door leading to one of the rooms, when, out of nowhere, a zombie springs upon him from the corridor. He swiftly dispatches the crazed creature. Yet moments later, a female zombie leaps at him and bites him. LJ refrains from disclosing the attack to Carlos and the rest of the survivors. Meanwhile, below ground in a secretive laboratory, new experiments are underway. Dr. Isaacs injects one of the infected with a serum derived from Alice's red clone substance. This zombie begins to exhibit cognitive abilities, such as understanding how to operate a telephone and a camera. Scientists claim that it can retain information and engage in logical thought. Unexpectedly, however, it succumbs to an uncontrollable fit of rage, attacking and annihilating the scientists. Dr. Isaacs, on the other hand, hides behind a glass partition, silently observing as his colleagues are consumed. In the desert, Otto distributes canned rations to all members of the group. Food supplies are scarce, but fuel is even scarcer. Carlos deploys cameras and motion sensors around the perimeter of the survivors' campsite. Mikey confirms that the equipment is operational and that the situation is under control, attempting once more to establish contact with other survivors. Alice detects a signal from the group but chooses to disregard it. Instead, she peruses a diary she discovered, stumbling upon notes indicating the absence of infected individuals in Alaska, a potential opportunity for a fresh start. Dr. Isaacs activates a new clone of Alice, coinciding with the real Alice's restless sleep, haunted by memories of her escape from the Raccoon City laboratory. Objects inexplicably levitate around her, and suddenly a clone of Alice awakens. The real Alice awakens, causing everything in the vicinity to plummet to the ground, including her motorcycle. In Isaac's laboratory, the White Queen, an artificial intelligence, materializes and alerts the scientists to a surge in psionic activity. Isaac speculates it might be Alice's clone, but the White Queen insists it's outside the underground complex in the desert. Isaac realizes only the genuine Alice possesses such power. Alice roams the expansive desert, while a group of survivors lounges in their vehicles. Suddenly, Kmart, a member of the group, is roused by an unusual noise outside her car. She cautiously opens the door, discovering an aggressive bird, and alerts the others. The team goes on high alert as they realize they're surrounded by infected ravens. Carlos and Claire instruct everyone to seal their windows and remain in their vehicles. Panic sets in as thousands of birds swoop down toward them. They hastily start their engines to escape, but one car gets stuck in the sand. LJ and Betty are compelled to dash to the bus, and just as they succeed, a horde of birds descends upon it. In the chaos, the bus collides with a pole in the middle of the road, rendering it immobile. The crows relentlessly attack, shattering the bus's windows. Claire notices the dire situation and urges Carlos to take immediate action. Claire and Carlos coordinate the evacuation of people from the bus to one of the trucks, but not without tragic losses. Betty, Otto, and several others fall victim to the onslaught of infected birds. They attempt to ward off the ravens and eliminate them using a flamethrower mounted on one of the trucks. However, they lose control of it, putting Carlos and one of the rescued girls in grave peril from the raging inferno. Carlos shields himself from the flames, but suddenly the fire's jet halts just a meter away from the terrified people. Startled, the man gazes upward and spots Alice standing before him. It was her extraordinary powers that halted the fire. Alice intensifies the flames manifold until they blanket the entire desert sky. Alice averts the group's impending demise but exposes herself in the process. The White Queen informs Dr. Isaacs of heightened satellite activity, strongly suspecting that these signals originate from Alice. Isaacs marvels at the extent of her burgeoning abilities. Meanwhile, Alice's new clone is prepared for testing but rapidly burns out, unable to match the original. After the bird battle, the real Alice regains consciousness. Outside, people bid farewell to those who didn't survive. Carlos introduces Alice to Claire and credits her with uniting this diverse group. The group's leader expresses gratitude to Alice for her assistance. Alice confides in Carlos, revealing that she had to go into hiding due to being pursued. She infiltrated the Umbrella base, hacked into their computers, and obtained the satellite's trajectory to evade detection. Carlos and Alice lost contact, making their reunion a joyous one. The satellite pinpoints Alice's location, and Isaacs's computer is 62% certain it's her. She must exercise caution. Claire thanks the girl again for her help, but requests that she leave, as the pursuit of Alice could jeopardize everyone's safety. Dr. Isaacs is determined not to lose Alice, urging Chairman Wesker to gain control of her swiftly and assemble a strike team. Wesker, unwilling to take risks, insists such decisions require a committee meeting. The physician harbors concerns about losing sight of Alice once more, and her genetic material proves vital for his research. Nonetheless, the corporation's chairman commands him to await confirmation from the computer that the individual truly is Alice. Alice presents Claire and her group with a diary containing notes about Alaska, the sole place untouched by infection, making it their destination. Claire hesitates, reluctant to implant unrealistic dreams in people's minds as the true circumstances in Alaska remain unknown. In contrast, Carlos supports the idea as hope is waning among their dwindling group. Claire opts to organize a vote, and the group, brimming with excitement and enthusiasm, unanimously chooses Alaska. The next decision is where to replenish their food and gasoline supplies for the long journey ahead. Small towns have been devoid of useful resources for a considerable time. Claire proposes Las Vegas as their destination. Meanwhile, Dr. Isaacs fabricates an order using the chairman's voice recording. The committee ostensibly directs immediate action and hands control of the operation to Dr. Isaacs. Umbrella Corporation helicopters follow Alice's trail. LJ's condition worsens due to the zombie bite, yet he refuses to admit the cause of his illness. The group arrives in Vegas, finding it deserted, transformed into a desert wasteland. Suddenly, they encounter an unusual container blocking their path. They are compelled to exit their vehicles and move it aside. Alice cautiously approaches, sensing a presence inside. The massive container abruptly opens, alerting the group, and dozens of zombies rush out, resulting in a gruesome battle. The group skillfully dispatches the zombies by targeting their heads and throat-slitting. Dr. Isaacs is the mastermind behind this scheme, driven by an unrelenting desire for Alice. He gazes in awe at her extraordinary abilities and directs his team to employ a satellite signal to neutralize her. Initially, Alice succumbs momentarily to the signal's command, but her unwavering resolve becomes evident on the instruments. Simultaneously, the battle against the relentless zombie horde rages on, claiming the lives of some group members. Shockingly, LJ transforms into a similarly aggressive creature, forcing Carlos to take lethal action. However, the infected LJ manages to inflict a bite on Carlos. Alice, against all odds, resists the satellite's control, causing a malfunction in its circuitry. She regains her composure and resumes her valiant fight, dispatching several more zombies before setting her sights on the corporation's personnel. Despite their best efforts, their conventional methods prove futile against Alice's newfound resistance. She proceeds to vanquish all Umbrella employees, while Dr. Isaacs falls victim to a zombie bite but narrowly escapes via a helicopter, requiring an urgent injection of an antivirus. As the surviving scientists make their getaway, Alice devises a new plan. Instead of heading to Alaska, they intend to secure the company helicopter. Dr. Isaacs finds himself in an underground laboratory administering multiple doses of a vaccine. Surprisingly, the genetic material from Alice's clones enhances the creature's strength, casting uncertainty over the doctor's fate following the mutant zombie bite. The corporation's leaders decide it's time to eliminate Isaacs, but their attempts fall short when he sprouts long tentacles in place of an arm, using them to wreak havoc in the lab. The team of survivors keeps a watchful eye on the area housing the underground lab. The helicopter they need is situated within a heavily fortified zone, surrounded by countless encroaching zombies. Carlos begins to show symptoms of infection, but Alice assures him that she will obtain the vaccine. Carlos, however, realizes it's too late for him and conceives a plan. He will detonate a gas tanker amidst the horde of eerie creatures, allowing the others to infiltrate the secured area. His comrades express their distress and sorrow, yet everyone acknowledges that there is no alternative escape. They bid their farewells, and Carlos assumes control of the wheel for one last time. The fuel truck hurtles forward at a perilous speed, toppling anyone in its path. Abruptly, the vehicle overturns. Carlos lights his final cigarette, igniting the explosive fuse. Moments later, a thunderous explosion paves the way for Alice, Claire, and the remaining survivors. All the group members manage to board the helicopter, but Alice declines to join them. She must confront her adversaries. Alice spots a trench filled with the lifeless bodies of her clones. Overwhelmed by anger, she unsheathes her machete and proceeds toward the laboratory's entrance. Descending to lower levels, she cautiously explores the dim and treacherous corridors. In one chamber, she discovers a transparent container holding her own clone. Suddenly, Alice is ambushed by a horrifying mutant, once Dr. Isaacs. The container shatters, revealing an exact replica of herself. Frightened by her real counterpart, the clone faints. The battle with the mutant Isaacs resumes, a challenging task as his wounds heal instantly. He deploys his long tentacles, strangling Alice, but she manages to reach her machete and sever them. Isaacs deploys his tentacles again, but Alice restrains them with her extraordinary abilities, hurling the mutant away. Yet he persists. Alice finds herself in a room with lasers, doing whatever it takes to vanquish Isaacs. Suddenly, a laser grid descends upon the mutated doctor, reducing him to small fragments. For a moment, it seems it might do the same to Alice, but the grid halts and vanishes just in time. Alice's clone awakens and discreetly accesses the computer. The Umbrella Corporation's leadership attempts in vain to contact the North American facility. The CEO realizes they've lost the personnel at that base, but decides that the research must press on. In a conference room, a projection of Alice appears. She reports her proximity and introduces her new allies, thousands of Alice clones ready to save the world from impending doom.